I want someone that's gone through adversity.
Yeah.
If you're in cold call sales or specifically with logistics,
Yeah.
you better be ready to get your teeth kicked in and face some adversity, because if you can do that and overcome that, like, sky's the limit. Today, we're going to talk about why attracting and retaining top talent is one of the most crucial aspects and also most overlooked aspects to growing a successful logistics company. Brian, you've hired a lot of people in the past 15 years. Tell me about your experience. What do you look for in talent?
Yeah. I think, we look at it we talk to a lot of different sales managers, and they get frustrated with how their team's doing and they're not meeting metrics, or this person's not putting in the right effort. And I think sometimes you have to look at your current team's performance and go back to the hiring side, right? Like, did you really hire the right person for that role? I've been doing the hiring piece for a long time. Going back to it, there's definitely some good hires that I've had, and there's definitely been some bad ones, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part, is like admitting that, you know what, I swung and missed on this one, and this is, to chalk it up to a bad loss and, look for the next person to, attract into the company. Do you feel like whenever you hire somebody that doesn't work out, I think a lot of sales managers or organizations, logistics companies, they don't look at the hidden costs behind that. What are your thoughts on the hidden costs that are out there, and like, what are people missing?
Depending on the industry, I mean, you're looking at, to onboard an employee, just strictly onboard them, get them trained, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 in costs, whether that's time, supplies, equipment, actual income to the employee. So it might seem small, but you duplicate that over and over, and your costs add up. And that doesn't even count for unemployment and time that goes into HR and making sure that those employees are offboarded as well. But when it comes to hiring, there's a lot that goes into that, and I don't think for some organizations, there's not enough emphasis on hiring the right people.
Sure.
Because if you're doing things the right way, you should have a hiring profile for each position and use that profile, tweak it here and there. But let's talk about sales reps.
Yeah.
If you're hiring a sales rep and you have a profile, there's a number of attributes or personality traits that you should be looking for. And most sales reps check those boxes.
I was just going to ask you, man, what are some of your, I don't know, pros, cons, knockout factors? What are some of those for you? Yeah,
you get the resume, you meet them, but there's a number of things I do look for: body language, how they're dressed.
Yeah.
Do they actually take care of themselves?
Yeah.
If they're not taking care of themselves, they're probably not going to care much about the actual job.
Sure.
When looking at the resume, I'm looking for any gaps in job history.
Mm-hmm.
If there's big gaps, what are they doing? Digging into those gaps and shooting holes through their story. Because if they're saying I just was trying to find my passion and I was really just wanting to find myself. Is that true, or were you just playing video games in your basement?
Right.
So digging into those and figuring out why those gaps, you can weed people out pretty quickly. If they're a good storyteller,
sure,
they might convince you why they are a good hire and what actually happened during that gap. But I'm also looking for promotions.
Sure.
How long do they stay at a specific company? If they have 10 different companies on the resume and they're there for 6 months each, a bit of a red flag.
Right.
Now, if they have 3 companies and you can see that they consistently move up at each company, well, that's a positive sign, because they're doing something right, something about them to get promoted at each company.
Yeah. Do you, everybody talks about job hopping, right? So it's they went from, this place and they were there for a year, and that place and they were there for a year. What are your thoughts on the job hopping side of it? If you get a resume and you see, I don't know, a person that's been in the workforce for 10 years and you might see 6 companies, what do you got there?
Yeah, a number of things. Are they staying in the same industry?
Mm-hmm.
If they are younger and they're trying to figure out what they really want to do, I might give them some leeway. But if they've been in the professional world for 15 years and they're just jumping all over industries, what exactly do you want to do?
Uh-huh.
Now, if they're always in sales and they have a legit story, the company shut down, we got laid off, my wife got relocated and I had to move.
Yeah.
Those are legit real life situations supporting why they would be moving.
Do you think, I always felt this, man, anytime that I would hire a salesperson or a previous salesperson, I feel like they're good at sales. right? Or they might be, halfway decent, or they know what they're talking about. They can tell a story, right? So I would always find myself, and these are some of the worst ones that not worst ones, but it would be somebody that was in previous sales, whether it's car sales or software sales or whatever. And I'm like, oh man, they're good. I like them. They're good energy. They're good body language. They can present well. And then 6 months into the job in freight sales, it's like, man, these guys have no clue, right? And those were the biggest challenges. Not red flags, because I loved them. I'm like, okay, like they have sales experience. I don't have to reteach them the whole cycle. They get it. They can talk to people. They can generate a conversation. But those are ones that I would always, bite me in the ass, because 6 months or 8 months later down the road, they either, fizzle out, or they'd be uninterested, or, they wouldn't be able to close business. Have you ever dealt with like, not roles, but like previous industries where they come into? Or
I do want sales experience, but it's not always a bad thing.
Sure.
I care more about their work ethic.
Yeah. Intangibles are huge, man.
Yes. Do people like them? Are they a culture fit?
Yeah.
And it sounds so basic, but at the end of the day, I know this is true for you and I, and probably for most entrepreneurs, but your culture is one of the most important pieces to the success of your company.
Heck yeah.
If you have someone that's going to disrupt your culture and cause a rift amongst your other employees, it's not going to work. It's not worth it. And it doesn't matter how successful that person is.
Yeah.
If no one likes them and no one wants to work with them, you got to cut them loose. It's not going to work. So what I do like more than anything, I would say, is the work ethic piece. Are they competitive? Have they been part of a team? Mm-hmm. Are they willing to invest in the actual mission of the company, or are they solely caring about themselves and their own success, which not always a bad thing.
I was just going to say.
If it's going to be disruptive, it's a different story.
Yeah, I think with a lot of people that we've seen before that have had success, right? I think you look at those type of people and, what works, what doesn't. I know for me, anytime that I'd have a server or a bartender, or I talked about, somebody that has previous sales experience being a bad thing, there can be, a good thing where they go in, this is a story that I love. And to me, it's like the prime candidate, but they go into a company, we'll call it a window manufacturer. They go out and they sell a ton of windows for 2-3 years in a row. Then the company says, oh man, this sales rep's making a lot of money. Now they're restructuring that person's comp plan, and then they come to us like, hey man, I want uncapped commission. Yep. God, I love that. Like okay, I'm getting capped. Yep. Now I'm coming to this organization. Like, okay, please sign here, right? Yep. That's to me, that's my approach. I love that side of it. So pros that I always look for: servers, bartenders, played sports in the past, previous sales position where they got capped at some commission. Yep. What are some other things that you like, man?
Yeah. I'll give you a few. I want someone that's gone through adversity.
Yeah.
If you're in cold call sales, or specifically with logistics, you better be ready to get your teeth kicked in and face some adversity, because if you can do that and overcome that, like, sky's the limit. I'm going to look at their references. Yeah. If I have someone that comes in and they're just bashing their boss or their coworkers or the company just set me up for failure, and it's excuse
never their fault, man. Victim mentality.
Correct. Yeah. Excuse after excuse. It's a no-go for me.
Sure.
I want someone who says, like, listen, here's why I left. Here's my references. Give them a call. And I call, check the references, and they're like, man, I wish that's one that got away.
Yeah.
Like, we love the guy, yada, yada, yada. Like,
sure.
Like that's a huge plus for me. I mentioned this already, but history of promotion. Someone that's like never settling, does not accept mediocrity. They're willing to put in the work to continue moving up, whether that's career-wise, financially, personal development, whatever it may be. Someone that wants more and is hungry for more. Yeah. Those are the type of people that I want.
Now, we know what to look for, and, we're telling the viewers and the listeners, what to look for when hiring a good salesperson. We're going to go into more of the offer letter, more of the onboarding process, how to retain this talent or this people that you've spent multiple interviews with, multiple hours trying to bring them into your company. We're now going to explain, how do we keep them there? How do we have an onboarding process that's going to make them feel like they're in the right place?